What is up, guys? Welcome to a new video. Today was something really strange but really good at the same time. I know, like, after seeing the title of this video, clicking on it, you'll probably think I've smoked something, but actually no, it's really good. Shifter has been playing ZIGGS bot lane in the AD carry role for a little while now and is winning so many games in Challenger Elo, which is pretty nuts. This is AP just to make it obvious, but he plays it with a support bot lane, like a normal bot lane. Now, by the way, if you want to see a game of this, I might grab one of his and actually look over it and kind of explain exactly what he does in Challenger Elo or a gameplay, but let me know in the comments whether you want to see either of them. I am actually 100% serious, by the way. Like, it makes sense even though it really shouldn't, and he's been doing it on his Challenger account and also his Master one. So AD carries in a nutshell, they're like high constant damage, right? They have high range, they farm, they push, and they take towers. That's kind of their role in the game. The issue is they're not as strong early anymore. The rest of the map kind of gets a lead, or there is a party bot lane, I guess, and you're not able to do as much at all until you got some items later into the game. This is where Shifter's ZIGGS comes in. You have high constant damage and high range. A Q poke with a low cooldown as well, so you can poke over and over. You farm and you push super easily in the lane phase. You can tame pretty much every enemy AD carry under their tower. They have to farm on a tower, they lose CS, and they also aren't able to go aggressive. You outpoke them massively damage wise. Your passive auto trade as well. If they actually try and auto attack you, normally when AD attacks a mage, the AD wins, right? But not with ZIGGS. Also remember, with towers, your satchel, your W executes the tower on 25% of its health in the lane. So effectively, the first tower actually only has 75% of its actual health. It's super easy to take it anyway because you push all day. You also have your passive, which is a 12-second cooldown, right? Reduced by 4 to 6 seconds with abilities, and basically up quite a lot of the time. It does 20 to 160 bonus damage plus some AP as well, which is double versus structures. You throw a Lich Bane in there and suddenly you have a tower taking machine who also has long range poke and AoE burst while having a decent amount of utility as well. I know it seems really weird, no AD carry, right? But you're basically fulfilling the same role, except you're not an auto attack machine, you're not AD, but you can kind of get around that too in a way with your team comp. ZIGGS also suffers as a champion from being an immobile mage, an easy target for a lot of things in this meta, but when you have like a support to protect you and help you early, it makes it much easier to get to the mid game point where you're actually super strong. Just to kind of compare these, actually, in a team fight, you'd normally sit at the back and auto attack as an AD carry, right? With ZIGGS, you're going to sit at the back and throw bombs instead. You would group and push your towers with auto attacks. With ZIGGS, you use your passive, you use your satchel and Lich Bane to take them even quicker, actually. Late game, you're supposed to be a threat as an AD carry. Well, ZIGGS actually scales super hard, harder than most. You have good AP ratios with low cooldowns and in your insane ultimate damage as well. Finally, AD carries right now really get boned by 4-man ganks and constant pressure. With ZIGGS, really, you turn them around a lot more with your AoE ultimate, your mind, your poke. You come online a lot earlier into the game. You're going to do more than an AD carry early. There are a couple of downsides though. There's a lack of AD damage maybe. There's no heavy late game auto attacks anyway if you don't have an AD carry in another role. That can be fixed though by having them in other roles or just AD damage in other roles. You're 100% skill shot reliant. Now on a normal AD carry, you can kind of just right click and you can still be useful, right? With ZIGGS, if you miss everything, you're completely useless. You're squishy. You can't really deal with bruisers or tanks as well as an AD carry. That's basically an AD carry's job, right? To get through those kind of champions. This is more about screwing the other carry targets. You ultimate their AD carry, their mid laner. You're going to actually one-shot them late game in the middle if you hit them in the middle because it does more damage. So overall, it isn't perfect. There are things that bring it down a little bit, but actually it makes a lot of sense. It scales well, it does well in the lane phase, and it destroys towers at big time. A really big thing though is it comes online much earlier than any other AD carry. You take first tower really easily, mid game way more effective than the enemy AD. Now I've played around with this a little bit, but we're mostly looking at what Shifter does here with his items, runes, masteries, playstyle and stuff. He has played this a lot and he makes it work even in Challenger. It's a good basis for kind of us to use. So for masteries, it's going to be Thunderlords or Death via Touch. Thunderlords is most common actually. It makes sense. It's normal for ZIGGS, I think, as well. More burst, much better in the lane phase. It gives you more kill potential. With Death via Touch though, ZIGGS builds pretty glass cannon. Actually, it means you have a lot of AP that can make Death via Touch hurt even more for the AP ratio. And you're also poking constantly to keep applying that damage. A late game is more about poke than burst, to be honest. So I would say Thunderlords is early to mid game. Death via Touch is mid to late for when they are both better. If you aren't sure though, like you're brand new to this pick as most probably are, then actually start with Thunderlords. Now items, you want to start with the Doran's Ring. No real surprise, and get a Lost Chapter as soon as you can. The mana regen is really important because you're not going to get any blue buffs this game really. Well, you might do, but you probably aren't going to, so it helps you push a lot more. Morellonomicon is cooldown reduction, mana and AP as well. Everything you could want basically means you can push harder, you can spam your spells, and you won't run out of mana. So after that, there are a lot of different choices, but the most common ones really would be Ludens or Death Cap. So Ludens is more Q poke, but the Death Cap is stacking up that extra AP. Lich Bane is the ultimate tower shredder with your passive. It absolutely absolutely wrecks. You have the passive damage, you have the Lich Bane damage as well, and it's just ridiculous. Void Staff makes everything hurt more. Zhonya's, Liandry's as well are both really good choices. The runes are pretty standard, but actually kind of clever as well. You don't really need magic resist because you're bot lane against an AD carry. You want magic pen, armor, AP quints, but cooldown reduction per level blues, which is 15% level 18. Now we're going to go into team comps and playstyle very quickly. So team comps, first off, this is where some people might say, well, this isn't going to work in my elo because nobody will pick AD. And kind of sure, I guess maybe. But to be honest, so many times I see full AD teams not full AP. So having this might even actually be a good thing. Now saying that, if we look at a team comp with ZIGGS as the bot lane champion, then normally the mid lane is still going to be AP. I know you'd probably think it would be AD, but actually AP is fine. AD junglers and top laners are really common at the moment. You can also have one AD, one tank, and that's why we don't really need it in the mid lane as well. It can be an AD carry actually, but it doesn't need to be. That's the great thing. For support, ZIGGS actually works with anything, to be honest. I've seen it work with tanks, mages, but usually they are a bit more aggressive. They basically take on the burden of the lane phase and help ZIGGS get through it. Someone like Blitz, for example, has a lot of burst. I'm actually serious, by the way. Hook into mines and Q damage is insane, especially if you have the passive from ZIGGS as well. Karma has really good poke, so you can kind of combine that with ZIGGS, but also the protection for mid game and late game is really, really strong, especially with redemption. Poke seems to be really good actually though, and some damage as well. Like Karma kind of does this, but Vel'Koz, Zyra as well. It's just way too much to deal with a ZIGGS and that extra damage from the support. So for playstyle, I've watched a lot of his replays to see how he does this and makes it work, and these are the biggest things to think about. First off, in the lane phase, there are two things you're better at than an AD carry traditionally. You poke harder and you push harder. That's what you kind of want to try and aim to use the most. You don't want long trades like a normal AD. You want to use your cooldowns, then back off again. Use your passive auto onto the enemy AD when you can. It's a really good auto trade, and actually normally, unless you're against like someone maybe with a Caitlyn headshot or a Draven Q, you're probably going to come out on top of an auto trade, which is a bit strange. Mainly you want to use your Q to push. By the way, you don't want to waste mana using your E or your W, for example. You should only really use your W as a defensive tool. You should be trying to chip away at the tower by pushing the wave in over and over, or at their health bars with your long range Qs. You don't necessarily want to fight them all out. Like, you don't want to go balls deep. Goals really for the lane phase though, you want to take the tower more than anything. You only need to get it to 25% health for a W execute, which is insanely strong. You really want to farm so you get your mid game items and you can accelerate way harder than enemy AD carry, and you want to poke and you want to push. So once you get more and more items, you're actually going to find very quickly you're ramping harder than the enemy AD, and you'll be able to do a lot more than they can, especially with your support there with you as well, like as a duo. Poking and pushing becomes a lot easier, one-shot waves, and it's way more rewarding as well. One Q onto an enemy champion can actually really start to hurt. So I'm going to break this into mid game and late game now. Mid game, after you take your bottom tower, you actually want to be taking dragons as much as possible as well. If you combine ZIGGS pushing power with a mountain drake, for example, or all of that AP with infernal drake, it's actually super good. You do want to roam to other lanes though as a priority. Know how like Caitlyn kind of moves to another lane, or a Jinx, for example. They use their really high range and attack speed to chip away at towers and get a gold lead like that. They actually don't really fight. They're playing kind of PvE. It's not like you're looking for a team fight. They will just take so many towers and kind of starve out the game that way, gaining a lot of gold. That's kind of their aim. The good thing, to be honest, with ZIGGS though, is you don't even have to do this. Like, sure, it sounds great, right, if you can play like that, but I don't know, how often would that actually happen with solo queue and stuff like that? It is a great thing to use if you can use it. Like, pushing towers constantly is really easy. We'll get into that in a second, but if you can't do it, it doesn't matter. You can still team fight. Speaking of team fights, it's just like a normal ZIGGS pick. Like, you have the mines to zone people in front of you, like in front of an enemy. You throw out your Q after Q to poke them down before a fight starts. Your damage is actually insane, but one of the biggest problems with someone like Ahri is going to dive on you and kill you all the time. Well, when you have a support with you, that doesn't really happen anymore. Your ultimate ideally is going to want to hit more than one person as well, but primarily you want to use this like a Gangplank ult. You know how Gangplank will aim this at a specific person to do more damage with the middle part? Well, that's exactly how ZIGGS ult works as well. Yes, it's great to hit people around them, that's perfect, but actually your primary target wants to be right in the middle for 50% bonus damage, and it means way more than you think. It's actually normally a one-shot late game. Also, please save your W satchel for escaping or knocking someone away. Yes, it's kind of great aggressively sometimes, but actually it's your only escape. If you don't want to team fight and you want to play a bit more strategy-wise, which I actually think is really good option with this ZIGGS build, you can actually group and push instead. This is where a lot of it actually comes in from. The whole build comes together when you do this. You have mines down to stop them walking forward, your Q to poke them under their own tower, and your passive does double damage to towers, remember, from quite high range. You then have your Lich Bane if you have that, or your W satchel to finish the tower off, and suddenly you're taking towers left, right, and center very fast before the enemy team can react. It's really hard to defend against all of this in one little package, I guess. Actually, basically you just lose tower after tower after tower, and there's not really much you can do about it. If you do group and you try and stop the ZIGGS, then he's going to poke you away from the tower. If they out rotate overtake you and they just rush to a tower before you get there, and then it's going to be gone by the time you do. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This was a bit more of an in-depth look at the build because I did one of these for Nasus, and then a lot of people said I don't really understand how to play him. So this time, a new meta pick, and I wanted to go into properly actually how you play the pick. Let me know what you think. Thank you for watching this video though. I really appreciate it. And for now, let's go to the robots.